going in and doing that last double check and listening back is so key. The amount of auditions that come in and they're not polished, or they missed a word, or it's just not a clean take. I think it's so imperative to make sure that we are finishing the job. So this is a little checklist just to go through, and something that you can apply to your auditions to make sure that you are self-directing and listening back. So first things first, training your ear. When we're new, our ear is our most important tool in voice. It's not even your voice, it's definitely your ear. You need to be able to listen to what you're doing and be able to self-direct yourself, to know if the inflection is off, or to know if there's too much musicality in your delivery. So those are two of the things. Patterns, looking for patterns. Are we doing upspeak? That's also a really big thing when we're first starting that we may not even realize.
That's super interesting what you said. Is that upspeak as a not desirable
Yeah,
inflection?
upspeak is basically, the way that I've always thought of it is, you sound unsure of what you're saying.
Okay.
So if we go up on something, it sounds like it's a question. And then we have an upspeak happening. And that just means now, and as the listener, I'm thinking, oh, do you know what you're talking about? Maybe I don't trust you because it doesn't really sound like you're knowledgeable in the product that you're selling. Next thing I would say is any kind of melody or musicality. And this goes both for commercial and animation. So I'd say even more specifically for animation, watch your musicality in regards to your delivery, not even if it's for a very high horizon, which is a really big, rounded sounding show, like let's say My Little Pony or Strawberry Shortcake. They do have a bit of musicality to it. Preschool, kindergarten does have a little bit of musicality to it. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that it's not all that we can come in and we can say lines in more of a conversational, as the character, of course, but more of like a straighter kind of conversational read versus having music to it. Next, I would say just kind of making sure that you are having a dynamic read. So having nuance within your delivery. So not every choice is the same. Not every line is ending the same way. There's a million different ways to say something. There's maybe not a million, but there's a lot. Things like tags, the end of stuff, Subway, eat fresh, being able to do that 3 times in a row, multiple times. Once you book that Subway gig, you're going to get into the studio and they're going to make you do that 4 times in a row.
Right.
That's 12 different ways,
Yep.
right? So making sure that we are, we have practice doing that, and we have practice listening back and hearing things in as many ways as we possibly can. And that will come with time. But I encourage you to listen to that, even if if you're outside, you're in the store, radio isn't as big as it used to be. We kind of stream all of our music and stuff now. But if you're ever in a store, they usually are playing just kind of a radio station or satellite, and you can hear these commercials. So be aware and be listening to how people are delivering stuff, the choices that they're making. It's the difference between a really good spot and a really good voiceover on a spot, and somebody who's just kind of calling it in or kind of, living above the read. So making sure that you have taken the notes from the direction. Now, the way that I like to do this is I'm not always including every single word in this. So it's natural, youthful, conversational, with energy, presence, nuance, highs and lows. So for animation, I might just be like, okay, obviously I want conversational, but there's the youthful thing in there. And then I want to have a bit of nuance. So I might pull those 3 words just to keep it simple for myself. And I would go and play with those for a little bit. And then making sure that I'm going back in at the end, to basically self-direct myself and make sure that I'm covering all the rest of them. Commercial, even more so. Commercial, they usually have a whole bunch of describing words here. So like warm, confident, observational, natural storyteller. They're not doing a read, they're telling us a story. And as we watch it unfold, there's so much in that direction right there that going in and trying to hit it all in one read is kind of going to be a little bit confusing as the actor. So I would go, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to do warm storyteller. Next thing is setting yourself apart. So just really quickly in this regard, just making sure that, you're adding stuff to your reads that isn't on the page. For animation, it's going to be reaction sounds, a gasp, a yell, a sigh, a cry, a yelp. It's so important to be able to know when you have done your best. Okay.
Right.
And being able to leave it, on the mic and walk away knowing this is the number one thing, and going, I say, set it and forget it. Okay. Going, you know what? That was a really great audition. It's out of my hands. And this comes up time and time. I know a lot of coaches say this, but I really truly do think it's one of the most important things about your self-direction is knowing when you have a good read and saying, you know what, that's good. I'm proud of that. I'm good. Instead of going constantly trying to be a perfectionist and, whittling it down to one word. And, it's like, don't, okay. Keep it simple. Know what your skill set is, know what you have to offer. And then just, the rest is up to the ether, really. No, for something like animation, knowing your moment before, this is acting 101 stuff, but at the end of the day, coming into a line and knowing where you have been or what is happening in the scene and bringing the energy before you even get to your first line, right? So for example, if I'm running through the forest and I'm getting chased by a big monster and I'm going to warn my friends about it, I can't show up to my line like, hey guys, how's it going? Right? It doesn't really serve what the moment before is. It has to be like, hey guys, how's it going? Right? And then I'm going to warn them about what it is. I have to give the context of the scene. Otherwise it's just not going to land. Something in regards to maybe commercial would be to add, and you'll get this in the studio when you're getting directed, a smile or a wink or a shoulder shrug or an eye roll. Okay. You add a smile to your read, even me right now, adding a smile to my read changes the way I deliver it. And it's just helpful for us as actors. It's not even just like for the read. It's just for us to be able to get our physicality into our reads and be a part of what we're saying so that it becomes ours. So it's our opinion. Another big thing is tease. Okay. My good friend, right. Jeff Wright, an engineer, that's his biggest pet peeve. He has had to record a tea and put it on the end of somebody's stuff because they just couldn't get it when they were in the studio. So for example, cement, right? If you're not hitting your tea on that, it might sound like cement. I'm going to go and cover the cement versus I'm going to go cover the cement. You can hear the difference, right? And it's not like we're overdoing it. I don't want to hear the work. But you do have to be aware of hitting those T's. That's kind of a big thing right there. Following through with your energy to the end of a sentence or a word. This happens all the time. You have this great read, and then you give up right before the finish line. And it's like, no, push through. You're not done yet. Okay. So carrying that energy all the way through is so necessary. Don't quit before the end. So those are those. Punctuation's a big thing. This is all kind of a little bit of script analysis. But also keeping in mind, like commercial, you can't really mess with it too much, but animation, just because there's a question mark doesn't mean it has to go up. I could ask you something like, how are you? How are you? Yeah. How are you? How are you? Right? There's so many different ways we can do that. It doesn't always have to go up. So just kind of keeping that in mind. What else? Oh, yes. So when there's back-to-back words, something like, let's go, the writer can't say this two different ways because we would never, as people in our speaking, go, let's go. We'd go, let's go. Right? So it's like having a differentiation. It happens all the time. We're reading it. And so our brain isn't really like differentiating that it's going to be an expression versus you just reading it. So just paying attention to that kind of stuff. These are all just really small, little minor details, but they're a mosaic that make up a really big picture. And that is what creates a dynamic read, is breaking down this stuff, figuring out where you can go and add your nuances, putting it all together, and then standing back and being able to see it for like a masterpiece of what it is versus just one blanket, boring read. Okay.
Now, for anyone looking for coaching, looking to level up your game, maybe you've hit a plateau in your in your auditions. Maybe you haven't worked with a voiceover coach. Maybe this is something new to you. I highly recommend you reach out. You have this really great, really low risk consultation. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
no-brainer. Like, I really love that you offer that, because the chemistry is so important when you're working with a coach. And you get the whole picture.
Mm-hmm.
So highly recommend you, everyone here, take down that email, get a screenshot. We'll get the links again at the end, but grab the website and the email there, to send something along to Nicki.